So today, first of all, we're going to continue our discussion on we are going to continue on our conditional statement part. We have already learned that if we have a need to work on different conditions, right? So there are two options which we can have. One is the if else block, which we have already covered, and the other one is the switch block, which we are going to cover today. So with if else, right? Just a quick glance on it. So in the if else block, right, we can have different variants of it. Like you can simply have a if block where you need to specify a condition, right? A condition should be such which should return you a boolean value as a output of it. Okay. So the output of this condition should be output should be a boolean value, right? If it returns to be true, right, only then the block of the if will be executed, right? If it returns to be false, then nothing will execute, at least in the if block, and then it can go to the next statement, and then if there are any conditions, those will be checked. So let's say this is like one variant. The other variant could be like you have a if block, and then you have a else block, again a simple variant of it. So if it is true, this will run. If that is false, this piece of run, right? Similarly, the third variant was that if you have multiple conditions to be checked, so let's say the condition one is here, right? Let's say it turned out to be true. If it turned out to be true, this will run, right? And everything else would be skipped. But let's say this is returned to be false, and what will happen is it will check the next condition, right? And if it turned out to be true, then this piece of thing will run. And if it turned out to be false, then again it will be skipped, and then it will move ahead. And again, you can have as many else if block as you need, right? So that is how it works. Now, we will now there is an alternative to using if else. We can use switch statement. Okay. Now, as the name says, switch, right? Switch is what, like you're switching from one thing to another, right? So it is like switch. You can understand with the literal meaning of switch, like you are switching from one thing to another, right? But how does it work, right? How does it work is like the first let's see the syntax of it. The syntax looks like this. You write switch all small, okay? Then you open up the brackets, right? And over here you need to provide the value for which the evaluation would be happening. Okay. So over here, right, it's not that you have to provide a condition here. No, you have to provide a value for which you want to evaluate things. Okay. I'll tell you like what I'm saying. But let's say that this is a syntax. You provide a value here, and then you open up the braces, and then you have certain case conditions. Okay. So you will write here like case, and again, depending on the data type of the value which you're providing here, right? The data type of the value you provide here, you will provide the case statement accordingly. So you will have case here, and let's say you're providing here. Let's say you have created a variable int a equals to 5, right? Let's say, and somewhere above, right, you would have done this a equals to 5, and you are passing a here. What is the data type of a? The data type of a is what? Int. So what you can have in the case condition is you can check for a specific value. It will be like if you say case one, right? What will happen is it will check. What does it mean is that if a equals to 1, right? If this condition returns out to be true, right? Then run this piece of block, whatever you will mention here, right? If let's say a is not 1, then it will not run this. What will happen is you have another condition, case 2, right? Now what will happen is if a equals to 2, right, it means this only, right? It will evaluate this value with this value. If this turns out to be same, then only this piece of block will run. Otherwise this will also be blocked, this will also be skipped. And similarly you can have n number of cases, as many as you want. And in the last, right, not in the last, what I should say is there is a default case, right? Let's say nothing matched. Let's say you provided 10 as a value, right? For this is a equals to 10, let's say, right? And you have written the cases for till 9, right? Now none of the cases are matching. What will happen is you will leave out one of the case, like a else block, right? In case of if else, we have else block. So similar to else block, right? This is a default case. Here, if nothing matches from the top, right, then the control will be moved to this default case, and whatever you would have written here would get executed. Okay. So this is the simplest form of like how you can understand about the switch statement, right? Let me give a demo. Actually, I think things will get clear there. Okay. Let's create first method. So what I'll do, public void switch demo. Okay, so I'm created a method just to demonstrate like how switch works. Let's do one thing. Let me accept one parameter here. So I will accept a parameter in a method. Let's say int age, right? Let's say. Now what I'll do is I'll write my switch statement. How do I write the switch syntax? Looks like this. Switch. Okay, you open up the brackets, and there we'll talk about this, like what you can pass here. What you have to do is open up the braces here, right? And then you will add the case conditions inside this case, right? Like this case, leave the value. I'm leaving
So
the
C is
value.
also small.
Sorry.
C is also small,
Yes, yes, everything is small here. S is small, C is also small.
and then we are
Okay.
giving the space purposely after case.
No, no, I will tell you, like it has to be filled in. I'll tell you like what
Okay,
I'm just trying to write down the just the hierarchy of it. Okay.
okay, okay, okay.
So this is like you can add as many case as you want. Okay. And then what you can do is, let's say in the case of like default case also, right? I mean, in the case of if else, if you understand the purpose of else is for the case when nothing matches on the top, right? And you are saying that if nothing match, go into the else block. So similarly, the purpose of default is that only. If none of the cases matches for you, right, then default case will run. Okay. Now, so you can see, right, there was no error on default here, right? It is not showing any error on default. Why? Because here you're not comparing anything. If none of this will be met, this will run. Now let's start filling this. So this is the syntax, right? This is the syntax. This is the complete syntax. You can have as many case as you want. Okay. So let's start this. So let's say my question is, as of now, let's say my program is that I again have a age. Okay, now again I have a age scale, and I'm saying if someone is of age 18. Okay, if someone is of age 18, then write here that you are an adult, right? You are an adult. If someone's age is 60, right, we have to say you are a senior citizen, right? Or let's say if something else comes in, right? If something else comes in, then you say uh, either you are a child. Oh, not nothing, right? So it should be like default case, you are young, let's say, right? You are young. Let's write this, right? So what I'm saying is, if you are 18 years of age, you will write this. If you are 60 years of age, you will write this. And if any other value is picked, you need to write this. Okay, you're young. Now let's see how we can do it. But try to understand here, I am working on specific values. I am not working on the ranges here, right? If you compare it to your if else question, right, there we were comparing the range like this, right? Here you were evaluating multiple values, and if something fits in here, then you were running that if block, right, where you could have the condition. I'll show you, then I think it will make more sense. Let's say here age. Okay, so this is whatever parameter you are trying to evaluate, you will have to pass in here. Okay, you provided age here, right? What you can provide in the case, the exact value which you are looking for. So I'm saying if age equals to 18, so what I have to do is just type here 18. Okay, now what does it really mean internally is it is checking whether age is equals to 18, right? If that is the case, then run this code, right? So I'll run the line as out, you you are an adult. Okay, an adult. Now let's say the 61, right? I will say 60, and I will say you are a senior citizen. Okay, and in the case of default, just a second. Sorry. Yes, where I was. Okay, here. Uh, Default case. So I'm saying if none of these match, what I have to do is I have to
You are
type here.
young.
I'm audible, right?
Yeah, yeah. You are young.
Okay.
You are going to type here, right?
Okay. Yes. I was thinking that you're saying you're not audible. You
No,
are
no.
young. Okay. Right. So we have to do this. Now let's say what I'll do is I'll invoke this method, right, and provide the input. And this is the switch block here, which is working, which is doing its job. Now there are still a lot of things which we have not covered, but again, I just wanted to show you a demo first. Let's see here. If I run this line, where is that block? Okay, let me comment this. Okay, and what I'll do is I will create the instance of my class d1 equals to new. Hmm, let me do one thing. Let me just clear this, otherwise it will unnecessary create confusion. Let me add a method here. Public void float use case demo, and here let me place this float casting demo. Right, this is what we did there. Let me just collapse this. We are not looking into this method. What we are looking into is this method, switch demo, right? Let me do one thing. Let me open in the right split also. If I can open in right split, right? So here you can look at the method here, which I'm trying to run. Right, these are both same classes, right? I've just opened two different views so that you can see it completely. So what I'm doing is I've created the instance of my class, which is this conditional statement demo with this line, and I will be using this d1 to invoke my method. So I will say d1 dot switch demo, and I will provide the input. Let's say I provide the input as 0. What should be printed here? What should be printed here?
Default output.
You are young.
You are young, right? So let us just check this. So if I run this now, okay, you're young, right? It is printing you are young. Now, if I print 60 here, if I provide, let's say not 60, let's say provide 61, again it will print you are young, right?
Yes.
Right, because we have only two checks, either 18 or 60. If anything else comes in, it will go into the default case, right, everyone? Okay, great. If I provide 60 here, what should be printed?
You are C.
Okay.
Citizenship and you are young, both.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yes, yes. I'll tell you like why that answer is correct. So what Ashok said is that what will be printed is it will first print this URIC, and then it will also print this. Now people will be saying why it would be printing this. Okay, so let's understand this part. So first of all, what is happening? Let's say I provided here six. Let's say the other case. Let's say I provided 0. Okay, let me first print 60 actually, just to show you that it really works that way. Okay, you can see it printed both the things. Why it printed both the things? I'm coming to that part now. Okay, let's see here. So you provided 60 here, right? So what is happening here is 60 went to this part, age 60, right? So 60 went here. Now switch got what value? It is like this, right? It got 60 here. Now the first case was checked. Is 18 equals to 60? No, this is not the case. This is false. What will happen is it will not go inside these brackets, right? It will not go inside these brackets. Now what will happen is it will check the next case. It is checking, is 60 equals to 60? Yes, that is correct. 60 is equals to 60. So what will happen is it will go into it will go into the body of that case, right? It will try to print this, and that is what it printed. URIC, right? Now the rules of switch statement is, right, if you what happens is, if you are into a case, right? If you have gone inside the case of the body of the case, right? And you have executed this, right? So the rule is that you should make sure that you are adding a break statement after it. Okay. You should be doing this. Okay. You should be doing this, which is missing in all our cases. Now the part is, if you don't provide this, right? See, what is the purpose of a break statement? Break statement helps you to break the loop, right? The current loop which you are in. Okay. So it will break that loop, it will come out of it. Okay. So you are inside a switch block, right? You're trying to run something, and as soon as you execute this line, you said break. Now what will happen is the control will just from here, right? Will just move out from here, and the control will be passed to the end of the switch statement here, which is this line number 81. So control from 75 will go out to control 81. Okay. But if you don't provide this, what will happen in this case is Java will do what? Again, as per the rules of Java, what Java will do is it will run this line, and then it will not evaluate any further. It will not evaluate any other case, but it will run the body of all the cases which are sitting after this. I mean, after this case, right? Currently, we have only default. Let me make this below. Okay, let me make this below, and now let's run, right? What you will find is, if I run it again with the 60 value, it will first print this URISC, right? And then we have no break statement. It will then, because we have not used the break statement, it will go to the next line, and here it will not evaluate this. It will stop. It will not evaluate this, but it will directly go into the body, okay, of that case, and whatever you will have there, it will just run that logic. Here we are printing this, so it will print you are an adult, and then again we do not have a break statement, right? So it will continue to the next case. Here it's a default case, right? Again, nothing would be evaluated. It will just go inside the block and run this line. You are young. Let me show you this. See this? You are a SC, you are an adult, you are young. Why? Because you did not use the break statement. Let's use the break statement. Let me add break statements everywhere. Okay, even in the default case. People can think, okay, default is sitting in the end. Why do we need to put a break after it? Okay. There is, again, I'll tell you like why you should not do it or why you should do it. Okay. Let's run this again. This time, what should be the output? Just one. If I run 60 as an input to this method here, switch demo, what should be the output? Just one you there? Okay. This one seems not to be there. Kusuma,
You are a SC.
you're SC, right? It will not print the other two lines, right?
Yes.
You understand the reason also, right?
Yes. Because we
That's
have a break there. It will stop
right.
at 60.
So you have to understand, right? Whenever a break statement is gets involved, right? It breaks the current loop and it goes out of it. Switch runs only one loop, right? This is just one time it will be running. It is not that it continuously keeps on running. So in switch, in if else, right? It's just a single loop which is running, right? So let's run this, and you will find that this time it will print you are a SC. See here, it printed you are a SC, right? Now, one more thing. Can someone tell me, like, is there a rule that we have to keep default in the end only?
No.
No, right? Okay. So where I can keep it? I can keep it in the first place also.
Yes, I think.
Okay. How many things like default has to be in the end only?
I feel it should be at the end.
Why do you feel that way? Because of the if else case, like in the if else is always in the end.
No. Because I feel that the purpose is that we are trying to execute that particular logic, and if in case that logic is not getting executed due to some or the other thing, and then we just want that something should be there, which should be at least giving us the hint that if this is not the case, then that will be the thing which we are getting, some alternative thing.
Okay. So in that case, okay, so with that perspective, you're saying that you have evaluated all your possible cases and nothing matched. So you want to keep
Yeah,
the remaining cases, right, as a
yeah,
part of
yeah.
default, right?
Yes, yes,
And you're
yes,
saying so
yes,
for
yes.
that reason, default should be in the end, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And let me tell you like why that thought process is there, because in the case of if else, right, if you use if or else if, right, there you are specifying the condition, but if none of the conditions are meeting, you go to the else block, right? And that is the last portion of it, right? Maybe like I'll show you like what I'm saying. See here, what I'm saying is if you write this public void if demo, right, and if I do something like this, okay, I believe else has to be in the end here, but let's see. Age equals to, let's say, 10. So second int age here, right? So what you do is int age, you read else if else here, and let me write here as age equals to, let's say, 60. If this is the case, else block is here. So if you would, okay, let me make it 18 only. Now if you would compare this line, right, whatever I'm doing in the if block, compare it to this, what I'm doing here. Let me write here if, let's see, do you see the similarity here, right? What I'm trying to achieve through if block and what I'm trying to achieve through the switch block, it is entirely similar, right? Just the two different syntax, just two different ways to achieve the same thing. You could use a if block also, if else block also, and you could use a switch block, right? Let me see if I can place else block. See, till now we have been placing else block in the end only, right? Let us see, can we place else block somewhere else? Even I don't know. Let's see. Let me try to put it there. Oh, we cannot, right? You can see it cannot. Let me see. Else without if. So what you can do is else block, I believe, has to be in the end only. Let me put it at the top. Again, you cannot write because else only works, comes only after if, right? So again, the rule of if else is that the else block has to be in the end. Okay, if we did not knew, then we know now. Okay, but in the between if and else, what you can have is you can have as many else if as you want. Similarly, we think when we are working about switch statement, right? Okay, first of all, this is clear, right, that this piece of code will behave similar to what this is behaving here, right? I hope there is no confusion around this. Both are doing the same thing. Let me run it. Okay, if this is not clear also, if I run this part d1 dot if demo and I provide the value as 60 here, right? And what I've done, case 60, 18 default, right? 18, 60 and default, whatever that is, right? And let's run this. Let's run both the lines. Let's run both the code. You will find URI written, not URI you will, yeah, URI written twice, right? One is coming from the switch block, another is coming from the if block, right? So this is behaving the same way. So these are just two alternative ways to achieve the same thing. But in case of if else, the else block has to be in the end, which is similar to your default case, right? If nothing is matching, then please run this part. Similarly, in case of switch, default is your seems to be something which is behaving like else, right here. But in case of switch, right, the rule says that you can put else default block anywhere you want. You can even place at the top. Let me run it now. This will work. You can see this is not throwing an error. Let me run this. URSC, right? So it works there, right? So default block can be anywhere, first of all. Now, when I was saying that you should keep your break statement here, I was saying for this reason, because default block can be residing anywhere. Let's say I provide a value now as I have removed the break statement on the default case, right? And if I provide, let's say, value of 50 in both the cases, you will find that the if block for you, right, still will print you are young, right, because of 50 input. But here in the switch block, what will print? Okay, let me write if here so that it is more easy to comprehend, like what is coming from what. If you are SC, if You are oblique, right? And these other things are from switch. So let me run it now. 50-50, right? See this? If you are young, this is correct, right? As per the if block, you ran this line if demo 50. So if you are young is under the else block. So this is running fine. But in case of the switch block, right? When you missed out to be writing the break statement, what is happening here? It first see it's not okay. I'll explain like what is happening here, right? But try to understand in the default case, right? It could not find this. It could not sorry the age, the value which you provide, right, was meeting this condition. So it ran this, right? And then you did not have a break statement. So it went inside this case 60, and printed this line, and then it found a break. As soon as it found a break, it just closed the existing loop and went out of the switch block. Okay. Is everyone fine with this understanding?
Yes, sir.
So,
Yes, clear.
right. So what is happening here is that what you should remember is that you can place default case anywhere, but make sure that break statement is applied in all the cases. Okay. So you do not see any surprises. So let me write here. Now earlier, right, in I don't know like in which version this change came in, but earlier, right, the recommended way was that you have to use braces if you have to write multi-line things, right? But I think I don't know like which version of Java introduced this, but now there is no need to even provide the braces, right? And you can write it as is, even the multi-line thing for the switch block, and this will also work. And let me run it again. You will find there is no error. Earlier, I remember that earlier we used to have braces. Okay, now you can see what it printed. You are young from switch. If you are young from the F block. Okay. Now seeing this, right? After seeing this, do you understand like what is the difference between a if block and a switch block on a high level? What? Okay, tell me one difference. Tell me one thing which you can do with if block and you cannot do with the switch block by this.
The range.
Right. Absolutely right. Right. Now that is the part here. See in our previous question, right, last class, right, we were talking about ranges. If age is between 18 to 16, then run this piece of code. So there was an involvement of range, but today we are discussing about specific values. If age equals to 60, then run this, right? Because switch you can only run the specific value cases. You cannot run for a range. If I ask you to run a program, write a program using switch statement to achieve the same objective as we were achieving earlier, where if the value is from 0 to 18, print child, right? Or if it is 18 to 60, print adult. Or if it is 60 to 80, print SC. You cannot achieve it through the switch case because you cannot specify the range. Okay, is it clear to everyone? Now, if that is clear, then now you understand that in which cases you should use in which scenarios you should use a if block, if else block, and in which scenarios you can use switch block, right? Okay. Okay, great. Now one more thing, we have talked about the int values, right? The int thing which we were seeing here. Okay, let me just close this, uh, collapse the if demo block. Let's go to the switch block. We were talking about age. Let me write one more method. This time we will take other input. Okay, I do not I'm actually trying to remember one thing which I am unable to get it as of now. With switch thing, right? There is one limitation with respect to one of the data type which you cannot provide. But I'm missing that part as of now. Maybe if I recollect, maybe by tomorrow I'll update you. But let's try to. We were currently working with int, right? Let's try to do it with string. Can we compare string values and use it in the switch block? So let me write here switch. Oh, sorry, switch. I'm saying sorry. String, string, and let's say gender, right? So if I use this now, and if I use a switch block and I say here gender, and I say case as male, right? And then print as out, gender is male, and the break statement case.
I was trying to search on Google and it told that switch statement does not accept arguments of type long, float, double, boolean, or any object besides strings.
But it did accepted the a into value, right?
I don't know why it said like that. Yeah.
Actually, I will check it. I also remember something vaguely around it, but let's see. Okay, I'll brief you about this. See, there are a lot of rules in Java. Something can be missed, but yeah, let's try. But the I mean the most easiest way to understand that rule is to just apply it and see whether it works or not, right? And then you will remember it forever, at least for a good amount of time. So this is the case default. I provide here as out. Please provide correct input. Okay. So let's say this is the case, and let me provide the break statement. Now, if I use this one and if I try to run it, switch demo 2. Okay, so we have already seen the int part. We are trying to see the part of d1 dot switch demo 2, and let's provide here male, and it should print gender is male. This should be very straightforward, but let's see. Right, gender is male is being printed. Let us check for the char value. Okay, what I'll do is I'll provide a char value here. Let's say m. Okay, now it is complaining because we are not accepting char there. Let me make the change. So I will say char, and I will do what? I will see whether it accepts char here. See, I am able to accept the char value also, right? And if I run now with the m part here, it should be printing the same output. So we touched upon int, we touched upon char, and we touched upon the string, right? Now let's see the float value. What I'll do is let's see here. Can we accept a float value? Let me write here 1.2. Okay, and 1.2 f maybe, and then I will accept here or not here. The above case. I have to provide here float, and here you can see, right, it started complaining. Incompatible types found, float required. Oh, sorry, just a second. What I'm doing? Switch demo 1.2f. Okay, if I provide 1.2 here, will it accept? It does not accept. Okay, let me just change the value. Let me say 16.0. Let me say 18.0, so that it matches to what I'm saying, right, to the float value. And you can see what it is saying now. It is saying incompatible types found float. Okay, now it is saying, right, that it found float, but what you can provide here is you can provide here char, byte, short, int. You cannot even provide a long. You can see the long value is not mentioned here, so you cannot provide a long, you cannot provide a float. You can provide a char, byte, short, int, character. You can provide byte, short, integer, string. You can provide, or an enum you can provide, right? So what we cannot provide? We cannot provide a boolean. Let me write here. So with switch statement, what you cannot provide? You cannot provide a boolean. You cannot provide a float. You cannot provide a long. You cannot provide a double. And what you can provide is you can provide char. All the other three family members of int family, which are byte, short, and int, right? Byte, short, and int. And in the last, what you can provide? A string value. Enum we have not talked about, so let's park it away. So this is something which you not allowed, right? These are not allowed, and these are something which are allowed, right? And this is what I was trying to refer to. So good, we got it here only, right? So again, you cannot work on these kind of values with the switch statement, right? So again, one more disadvantage, if you, I mean, if you are sticking yourself to the switch block, you cannot use it, at least for these values. Okay, so I think these are the only rules which you have to cater. Okay, okay, and this should be fine. Now, just a second. Okay, I think we are good here. Okay, so let me just make it int again, and now you can see, right? If I once I made the int, it this case started saying that okay, you are above saying that age would be of int type, then why are you asking me to compare it to a float value? So accordingly, you will have to adjust to the value, right? So I'm just comparing it. I'm just converting it back to this value. We're good here, and on the top we had this. Let me just make it 1. Right, so these are all the rules of the switch statement which we should be clear about. Okay, okay, let's cover the other two parts which are about the looping condition. Okay, so let me create another class, Java class. Let me write looping condition, looping conditions, condition demo, looping demo. What condition? Looping demo, right? When we talk about looping, what are the two cases? The cases are for loop and the while loop. Okay, now what do we understand by looping? Let me just talk about this. See, in case when you were talking about if else or the switch statement, right, it was like this, that you just wanted to run logic only once, right? So you were running only once the logic, whatever that logic was. If the logic was this, if age equals to 60, right, you will just run whatever you had and then even move out of it once it executes, right, from the else block, right? But try to understand that you're not repeating this code like one after another, right? Like let's say you want to repeat this code 100 times, you're not doing it with the if else, right? Let's say similarly with the switch block also, right? Whatever you provide as an input, right, it checks for the once, it checks once, so the switch statement only runs once, right? So the entire block is running only once. Similarly here also, it is running only once. This is only once, right? What if I want to run a piece of logic multiple times? So this is one circle, another circle, another circle, another circle, another circle, and keep on doing this, right? Let's say I want to run a piece of logic, let's say n number of times. So this is called as looping. Okay, so you're trying to looping, right? So the intention is that you want to repeat the logic multiple times, multiple times. For example, let's say I ask you to, okay, again, in our school days, right, when we were not doing our homework, so our teachers used to call us on the board and say, okay, write on the board, I will not repeat this mistake, right? And she used to say, write it 100 times, right? So you're writing here, I will not repeat it, I will not repeat the mistake, repeat the mistake, right? So you wrote it once, and then she said, okay, write it 100 times on the board. So again, it's a punishment. So you will be writing it 100 times, right? But what you're doing is you're printing this logic multiple times. So this is all same here, right? But you're repeating it multiple times. That is what you're doing. Now, in case of programming, how can you achieve it? See, first let's understand how do you print this. You will have to simply write this line, right? System.out.println, and then you will just write whatever I've asked you to write, and then you will just print this line. So this will print how many times? One time. I am asking you to print this line 100 times. What you can do is you can say, okay, I don't know about looping rules and anything. So what I'll do is I'll copy this line and type it 100 times. Again, so again, you will achieve the same objective like how you were doing here. But let's become smart and let's think, okay, what are the possible solution which language is providing us? So language does provide us to repeat your logic, which is this, multiple times. How? Using a for loop, using a while loop. Okay. Now let's discuss about the for loop. How does a for loop looks like? But we have to first understand what is the intention. We are looping multiple times, not just once. Again, with the for loop, you can even, I mean, when I'm saying multiple times, right, it means even 0 time, 1 time, or infinite times. Okay, you can control it within the for loop. Okay, but in case of if else and the switch, it always runs for the one time only, right? Okay, how does the for loop looks like? For loop looks like this. For, you open up the brackets. Let me put a bracket here, and there would be something here. Okay, and then you open up the braces, and you will add whatever logic you want to repeat, right? Multiple times. You will write your logic here. What are these? I mean, what inside these brackets we have to provide? So here logic will come, whatever you want to repeat, right? But what will come here? So there you can provide 3 statements. One, and all will be separated through a semicolon. Okay, the first part here is, right, this block here is the initialization block. Initialization block. The second block over here is called the conditional block. Okay, the third block, I think it's called the incremental or operational block. I think, I don't remember the complete word. Operational block, let's say operation block, right? I think that's not the correct word I'm saying, but there is a certain name for it, but leave it, right? What we have to understand is what is the purpose of these 3. Okay, now the first block, right here, as the name says, it is used to initialize a variable. Okay, so you will find yourself writing something like this: int a equals to 0, let's say. So here what you're doing is you are declaring a variable also, and you are initializing it with a 0 value, right? What you could also do is you could declare the variable outside, and you can just simply write a equals to 0 here. Again, this is possible, but in most of the cases you will find that you are writing something like this. Okay, not this. Int a equals to 0 and this, right? Now the second block. Okay, why we have to initialize, we'll talk about it, right? Let's talk about the conditional block. Conditional block, as name says, it is conditional, right? So it must be checking a condition here. So you will provide a condition here. Let's say a should be less than 10. Okay, so this is a condition. So every time this condition will be checked, if it returns to be true, the loop will run. If the condition returns out to be false, the loop will end, and the control will move out from here to here, the end of the for loop. And here it's like an incremental or decremental operator which you can perform, where you will be increasing the value of a with every new loop. Okay, so let's use a plus plus as of now. Okay, not the semicolon, sorry, a plus plus. Now let's talk about this, right? Let's say, as I was saying, right, we have to print here system.out.println. I want to print, let's say my name is Akhil, my name is AJ. Okay, so I want to print this. How many times I want to, forget about the programming world, let's discuss in a manual way, right? Let's say that someone asked you to write this 10 times. How would you do it? You would, let's say someone gave you the board and you said, and someone said, okay, write this 10 times. Even when you're doing there on the board, right, you will have to somewhere have a control to know like how many times you've written this, right? So that you can just write 10 times, not 11 times, not 9 times, not 8 times, exactly 10 times. How would you do it? You would like to count that value, right? How many times you've written? Okay, I've written 1 time, second time, 3 times, right? So you require a counter there also, right? Here, right, you require a counter there. You will be checking, okay, I've written 1 time, second time. So similarly, your program also needs a counter. It needs to know how many times you would have written this, or how many times your loop has executed. So with every loop you would be writing once. So you, if you know like how many times the loops have run, then you can have a control like I mean how many times you want to run this, right? So what you will do is, let's say you let's say you start with the counter as 0. You will say, okay, I have not written anything on the board, so I will use a variable, let's say a, and initially its value is 0 since I have not written anything. As soon as my first loop starts, okay, my first loop starts, here what I'll do is I will print that line. My name is Akhil, right? My name is Akhil, right? So I wrote this. Now what will happen is, what I'll do is, once I write this, I will increase the value of a by 1. So I'll do a plus 1. Now the value of a is what? 1. Now the earlier loop has ended. The earlier loop has ended, and now I need to start again. So when I'm checking, when I'm running this, right, I am checking, has the value, I want to write how many times? 10 times, right? I want to write it 10 times. So I'm checking here, has I've already written 10 times? No, I'm still at 1. So it means that I need to still learn it. So okay, I will run it again, right? I will run it again, right? I ran this again, and this time I wrote the name again, right? Now once the loop is about to complete, what I'll do is I'll increase the value of a again, right? Now I've written how many times? 2 times, right? So similarly, I'll keep on doing this until I've reached the counter number 10, right? I've written Michael, and now let's say in the end, the value what after increasing, a became 10. Now whenever a became 10 and this matched to this value here, right? Now I'm sure, okay, since I wanted to run 10 times, and this now because of my logic here, my a has become 10. So I'm good with this loop here, and now I can stop. I don't need to write it next time, right? That is how you will write if you have to do it manually on the board, right? You will have to have some counter somewhere, right? Now similarly, your program also needs a counter. Okay, let's talk about this, how you will achieve this here. Okay, as I said, you will write your for loop. You will have to start with your counter. This is your counter, right? This is your initialization block. Int a equals to 0. You're saying, okay, you can initialize. Okay, first let's understand that you initialize with a 0 value, right? As soon as you write this, right, and then you're putting a condition here, this condition, right, that a should be less than 10 or equal to 10 depending on what you want to run, right? So this is the condition. So with after every loop, this condition would be checked. If it is met, only then the loop will be running, otherwise it will exit from there. And after every loop, it is increasing the value of a like this, right? But how does these three works? That is the important part, and that is where we miss out things. Okay, we will break the entire 10 times of loop, right, into two phases. The phases would be, we will divide it into the first iteration. So what is iteration? The one loop is termed as one iteration. Okay, one loop is termed as one iteration. So the in the first iteration, and then the second time, second onwards, right, iteration. So the first iteration is the rule is different, and for the second onwards iteration, the rule is different. What is that rule? The rule is, let's say you have not executed this for loop right now, right? What will happen? This is the first iteration which you're about to start. So in that case, what will happen is it will check your initialization block first. Okay. See, we have to also understand which is running first out of these three blocks. In the first iteration, this initialization block runs first. Okay. So this piece runs first. So now with this initialization block, what is the value of a? It is 0. So let me write here. Value of a is 0. So let me write here. This is the first iteration. Okay, this is the first iteration. In the first iteration, value of a is 0. Now, once you have initialized this, right? Now what you need to do is, what for loop will do is, it will check this your condition. It will check this condition. It will check is a less than 0, which is 0 less than 10. Sorry, a less than 10. Sorry, right? So it is 0 less than 10, right? So it is, so this time the condition returned you what? True. As soon as it returned true, right, in the first iteration, this block will not run. Okay, in the first iteration, this block will not run. What will happen is, after running the second thing and it returned true, it will directly go into inside the method of this block here, and whatever you would have specified here will get printed. So what you will get AJ written here as an output, right? Now in the second iteration onwards, what will happen? So this loop ended here, right? This loop completed here, and it moved back to the for loop. And here it knows that this is the second iteration now. What will happen is, now initialization block is not required anymore. So this will not run from the second iteration onwards. It will not run. Okay. So its job is for the first iteration only. Now what will run is, in the second iteration, first of all, this conditional block will run. Okay. So here what will happen is, it will first increase the value of a. What was the value of A earlier? 0. Now what will the value of A? 1. So now value of A became 1 because of this, and after this it will go to the conditional block. Okay, it will go to the conditional block, and then it is checking the condition. Is 1 less than 10? Yes, still it is true. It returned true. As soon as it returned true, it will go in and run the logic again. So it will print AJ again, right? In the third loop, again the same process will follow now. It will go to this part first. It will go to this part first. So it will do A plus plus. Now the value of A became true. Again checking the condition, 2 less than 10, true. It will print this, right? It will keep doing this. Let me write here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's say, right? Now, in the case of 9, it will still check 9 less than 10, right? So let me write here 3 less than 10, 4 less than 10, 5 less than 10, 6 less than 10, 7 less than 10, 8 less than 10, and whatever. True, 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 true. How many truths we have? So this one was this one was this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So you can see at this point, right, when 9 was less than 10 in this. So how many loops we have run? Fourth loop. This was the fourth loop for the third value. Fifth loop for this. So this would be the sixth loop. This would be the seventh loop. It would be the eighth loop. It will be the ninth loop for this part. For the this would be the 10th loop, right? So in the 10th loop, we already got value of A to be 9, and it checked this, it returned true, so it printed AJ here. So AJ has been printed 10 times already, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is the 10th time the value of AJ is getting printed. Now after this is important, right? Now it will again, so now it reached here, and it will again go back to check the conditions here. So again it will go back and it will see this. It will run this part again. It will do A plus plus. As soon as I did A plus plus, value of A became 10, right? Value of A became 10, and now the condition will be checked. Is 10 less than 10? Is it true or false?
False.
It is false, right? Now it returned false. As soon as it returned false, your loop will know that it needs to stop now. So it will stop, and it will just move out of the control from here to here, right? And since you moved out and you did not ran the logic, it will not print anything. So how many times you were able to write AJ? 10 times, and you were able to achieve it, right? So understand this, how the for loops works is it has 3 blocks: initialization, conditional, and operational block. In the first iteration, it runs the initialization block first and then the conditional block, and from the second iteration onwards, it does not need this initialization block, it does not run that. What it runs is it first runs the operational block and then the conditional block, and if conditional block returns true, only then it goes inside this to run the logic. If it returns false, it will come out of the for loop. Is it clear, everyone? Any question on this part?
No.
Okay. Shelly, this is clear to you, right? Shelly is not there. Okay. Azhar?
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Okay, great. Let me just check who was on today. Okay, great. I think, okay, fine. Now, let's run this, right? Let's try to run this and see this in action. What I'll do is, I'll open this block and let
Hey,
me
hi,
write.
I'm back. Sorry, I was away for a while.
No worries, no worries. I was just checking whether you understood the for loop.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So public static void main. What I'll do is, let me write a method for loop. Public void for demo, right? And what I'll do here is I'll just create the loop for, again, just leave it, and here I will add the logic, like the logic there. So as I said, you can have this way, right? So first would be your initialization block. I want to repeat the same step. I want to print khilgen 10 times, right? So let me write the logic first. Okay, let's go to the for loop, and I will do what? Let me initialize a variable int I. You will find people using I only, so let me use I. Okay, then the condition, I want to run it 10 times, so I have to be, see, you have to be careful, right, what values you're providing. Okay, because based on the initialized value and the condition you're mentioning, the number of loops will be decided. Okay, so you have to be careful on it. You have to understand how for loops work and what value you're providing, right? People may be thinking that you have to provide equal to here, right? If that is the confusion you have, that let's say how many times this loop will run this time, it will run 11 times if I put an equal to this. You can do a dry run and get to know about this. Okay, but I just explain like how you can run 10 times. You can run it by I less than 10 if you are starting with 0. Okay, and just to explain you this, okay, let me just complete this part first, otherwise I plus plus, right? And I want to run this, so let's just call this method. Let me make it static, and I don't have to create the object. Looping demo dot for demo, and we are good. Let's run this, and you will see it prints Akhiljan 10 times. See, let me count, and let me do one thing now. Let me also print I, so we will also see how many times it printed. Plus I don't need to count this, it will itself. Okay, see here, it started from 0 and it is printing till the value of I is attained 9. But how many times it is getting printed? 9 times are here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9, right? And 10th is this. Okay, now why I'm specifically focusing on this part, right, 0th part, because people who are not coming from the programming world, right, they may think that okay, the number starts from 1 and why it is like doing this way, right? But again, see, it is just a counter, right? I am using 0 to 10, right? Let me just explain you again. If I go on the board, if I draw a number line, right, from 0 to 10, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What I said is that value of a, so value of a can be these, but the condition I've checked is that it should not be 10, it should be within this range, right? Within this range from 0 to 10, 0 to 9, right? 10th is not allowed, 9th is allowed, 8th is allowed, 7th is allowed, 6th is allowed, 5th is allowed, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Right? Count this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right? That's why it prints 10 times. If you add their condition to be a less than equal to 10, right, then it will check this value also, because for this 10 less than equals to 10 is true, right? It's not false. It says that 10 is either less than or equal to 10. So here it is equals to 10, so it returns true. So make sure you know what you're doing and accordingly setting the condition and the initialized value, right? Let me change it up further. Let's go. I still want to print 10 times, but what I'll do is I'll start it from 1. This time I'm starting from 1, and this time I would require to put it to be equal, right? And if I run this now, you will see again the number of times it is getting printed is 10 times. Let me just run it again. You see, but now the counter has started from 1, not 0, because that is how I provided this. But overall, I'm printing a Kilgen 10 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right? Let me change it further. Let me start from minus value. Let me say minus 4. So minus 4, minus 3, minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. Right? So I'll do less than 5. How many times this will print? Still 10 times. If you see it on the number line, this is how it will be getting printed. Let us see this. The point I'm trying to make here is that they see your overall objective is that you want to print this 10 times, right? What conditions you are using to print this is on you. Okay, what is your starting point and what is your ending point? See here how many times Akhiljan got printed now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right? Why it happened? Because you chose a number line of -4 to 5. Right? Let me do this one also very quickly. See this, if I draw this one number line, what I'm saying is, let's say it is -5, -4, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What I have decided there is -4 to, I think -4 to 5 here, right? The condition was a should be less than equals to 5, right? So this is included. So this is included, this is included, this, right? Because a I have set to be -4. So this is included. So how many values are these? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? It will start from -4. In the next iteration, it will add +1 to it. So it becomes -4 plus 1 equals to what? -3. So it reaches here. Then you add +1 after this. It reaches to -2, then -1, then 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? This is how things gets executed. Right? And if you decide to remove this equal to sign, right, then what you should do is you should remove this sign and add a next value, right? Because it is less than 6. So you're saying I should be less than 6. So 5 is less than 6. So whether you do this or you do this, right? Both means the same thing with the initial range which you have decided based on it. Okay. So again, don't get confused if you don't understand in some of the logic, like why it is not starting from 0, why it is not starting from 1, why it is going in the negative range. It all depends on like what range you're playing with. Okay. So let me just run it one last time with the 6 value just to prove the point. And let's move ahead. Okay, you can see, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You can see it still ran till 5 only. Why? Because here you have changed the condition. It is not checking till 5, it is checking less than 6. Okay. Okay, I think this is more than enough to understand about the 4. One last thing. Okay, I think that thing will get clear when you practice on the for loop more, but let me just tell you what I was trying to say. Just a second. In the for loop, right? As per the rule of for loop, you do not even have to provide any of these. Okay, but you have to make sure is that syntax is syntactically correct. And if I write this also, right, this is correct. As per Java, this is okay. And if I run this, right, you know what will happen? It will run infinite times.
Yeah.
Okay, it will run infinite times. Let me try it. I hope my system will not hang. Let's run this. You can see how many times it will print. It will keep printing Akhiljan, 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 Akhiljan. See, it is not stopping. It is going ahead, going ahead. Okay, let me stop this. Okay. So again, these questions I'm very confident people will not ask in your interview questions. But if you are sitting for some certification, you may find it there, or maybe you're giving some I don't know. Maybe in interviews also, right? They ask those. There are some questions which they send over the mail, right, on their portal to solve. So there you may find something like this, and they may ask like, what is the output there? So you should be knowing about all the tricks, right? So this is how it is. One more thing which I wanted to mention here is that you can do multiple initialization in the initialization block. So you may find some way that it is written like this: int I equals to 0 and j equals to 0. You see, it did not complain. It did not complain. So you can do multiple initialization of different variables inside the initialization block, right? And use that I and j in your logic there. And even for the condition, I believe, right, what you can do is, it's not a single condition. You can write a complex condition. Let's say I'm writing like this: I should be less than equals to 0, should be greater than equals to 0. Ampersand ampersand I should be greater than, let's say, 18. Oh, sorry, less than 18, right? Let's say I wrote this, right? Again, similarly, you can keep on adding pipes and all that, right? Whatever you want. So in the end, what you should have is, you should have a condition, a complex condition somewhere, which can return you a Boolean value. That's it. That is the only rule. How simple or complex that condition is on you, is on your needs, right? So let me just remove this part here. And similarly, for this last part here, I'll also write, you can do multiple operations. You can write I plus plus, and at the same time you can write here j minus minus, right? But again, how these are getting differentiated? These are getting differentiated because of the semicolon. Okay, you can have hundreds of different variables here. One big complex condition here, and again multiple operational items here also. So I think if you understand this part, if you realize all this part, you are almost getting all the rules of the for loop. Okay. Okay, so we are good with the for loop. And again, inside the for loop, it's just a logic, where how simple or complex that logic is on you. If you want to use if else within a for loop, yes you can. If you want to use a while loop, switch statement, anything else, another for loop inside a for loop, you can do it. Let us take that part. What I'll do is, I will ask, okay, I will ask everyone, right? Please try to print this pattern, right? You may have seen this, right? In when you were doing some practicing, right, about the patterns. Print this pattern. So I want to print asterisk 5 times in the first row. In the second row, I want to print asterisk, let's say, 4 times, right? In the next case, I want to print asterisk 3 times. Okay, so this is the pattern I want you to print. Which logic which you will use to print this pattern? You got this point, right? You need to print this, right? What do you think you need to do here?
We need to have two for loops.
You need to
One,
have two for loops, right? Why
yeah.
is that? Can you explain why do you need two for loops? Cannot
Yes,
be,
sir.
can't it be done using a if block? I mean, if else condition.
One is to decide how many rows we need,
Hmm.
and other one is to decide how many stars we need in each row.
Right, right. That is correct. That is correct. But does everyone understand this part? Like, if you have to print, like, if you want to do it, like, see here, what you're trying to do is, you're trying to go through 2 dimensions. Okay, you're trying to do through 2 dimensions. What is 1 dimension? 1 dimension is this. See this. If I ask you to print this asterisk 5 times, it is very easy. What you will do is, for demo, right? Oh, I removed that part. Oh my goodness. Okay. What you should do is, you should write here 4. I want to print how many times? At least answer me this part, right? If I want to print asterisk 5 times, what should I write here? Considering what we just learned about how you run a single logic 5 times. Azhar, if you can tell me, I want to print asterisk 5 times.
This part I'm not getting, sir. I need some time to
Okay,
understand this part.
okay, okay. Let's say I want to print Akhil 5 times. What will you do? Let me write here. Okay, let me remove this. See, I want to print Akhil 5 times, right? Everyone. Let's say I want to print Akhil, then space Akhil, 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 right? 5 times. What should I do? Other depending on like what we learned today in the for
Yes,
loop.
sir.
So we want to
Like,
we want to print this 5 times. So if we talk about our counter, right, the range of it, if I start from 0, the condition should be less than 5, right?
yes.
So tell me the syntax. What should I write here in the
For I
for
is
block?
equal, yeah, for I is equal to 5.
I equals to 5. I you will start from 0, right?
Yeah, I equal to 0.
So tell me the complete thing, right? You will have to declare the value, right?
Yeah.
I is not declared yet, so you will have to declare it. And
Okay.
I. So
Yeah.
I data type is int. So I've mentioned int there. Then you
Yes.
will do equal to, and then you will say 0, right?
Yes.
And then the semicolon to follow the rules of the syntax of for loop, right?
Yeah.
And then
I
you
is
will do what? I. Then you tell me the condition. What should I write here?
yeah, I is lesser than equal to 5.
I less than equals to 5.
Yes.
Okay, here you are mistaken. You will not be using equal to. Try to go back and see why I'm saying you they will not be equal to, right? Why
Okay.
only less than? Okay,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
do a dry run at your end. And then
Yeah.
what is the last condition?
I plus plus for
Okay,
increment.
incremental operation, right?
Yes.
And then I will open up the
Smith.
braces of the for loop so that I can write my logic, right?
Yes.
And here what I'll do, I need to print what? I need to print Akhil.
Akhil. Yeah.
Okay. One thing here is if you use system.out.println, ln does what? It prints what you write plus it enters after it. So you move to the next line. Okay. Here I don't want to move to the next line. I want to remain on that line, right? So what will happen if I am remaining on that line? So if system has to print something next, right? It is not printing on the next line. Rather, it is in continuation of the previous line.
Mm.
Okay. So if you want to continue printing on the same line, what you should do is you should not use ln there. What you should use is you should use system.out.print. Okay. Now we wrote this, and if I remove this now, right? So this is this is one dimensional, right? This is one dimensional, like the x-axis. We have learned about x and y-axis, right? In our school time, college time, right? So this is like x-axis going straight, x-axis, right? So if you want to go, if you want to work in one dimensional, right? The one for loop is enough. Okay, and how it is enough is you can write this way. And if I run it now, you will see Akhil getting printed 5 times, and that too with no space between them. Let's run this. See this, Akhil, Akhil, Akhil again, then Akhil, then Akhil, right? Now, similarly, I am asking to print asterisk instead of Akhil. What I need to do? Just remove Akhil and provide asterisk, right?
Yeah.
Right? What will happen? 5 times asterisk would be printed, right? On the same line. Asterisk, 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 and then it stops, right? So this is one dimensional. It printed there, right? Is everyone okay with this part?
Yes. Clear.
Okay. Others are not saying, so I'm expecting that everyone is understanding. Okay. Okay, great. So this is one dimensional, right? This is one dimensional. Now, so again, x is one dimensional. Even similarly, y can be other dimension, right? So what I'm saying is, see why I'm explaining this pattern is because you will find in your interviews question, maybe someone will come up and say, give you some random patterns and ask you to draw it, right? If you understand this logic, right, what I'm trying to explain here, then whatever pattern they gave you, right, you will be able to print this. So see here, we know about this x-axis and y-axis, right? This is x-axis, this is y-axis. In case of programming, right, what happens is, in case of your output console, that is my output console, right, where the output is coming. This is my output console. So what happens, how it works is that the control is here on this line. Let's say this is line number 1, right? So currently the control is here. So what happens is, like, if you don't provide an enter, if you don't provide an enter by yourself, it will, what computer will do is it will keep printing on the same line. Okay, and since it is moving in this direction, I am saying this is running in the x-axis, right? So this is one dimension, x-axis. Similarly, y, if you don't want to print in x-axis, you want to print in y dimension, right? That is vertical, right? That is vertical. So what you need to do, you need to make sure that after every your input, right, you are pressing enter, and then you will print like this, right? So this becomes your y-axis, right, everyone? We
Yes.
understand this part, right? So to if you have to go this way, you have to do what? You should do something like this: system dot out dot print, right? And whatever you want to print, let's say asterisk, right? If you want to print this way, what you should do is you should write here system dot out dot print ln and asterisk, right? And for both the cases, let's say I wanted to print asterisk 5 times, right? Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Here also asterisk, 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 and asterisk, right? 5 times. So what you'll do is you will write the same logic for I equals to 0, I less than 5, I plus plus, right? And here also the same logic for I equals to 0, I less than 5, I plus plus, right? Right? What is the difference here is to print in the x-axis, you are not using ln, but to print in y-axis, you're making sure that after every output you're pressing an enter, right? So this should be pretty clear now. Okay, let me show this very quickly. So this is print, this is the first line, and this is the second thing, right? Now in this case, what will happen is this asterisk, instead of being printed in the same line, after every line you print asterisk, you are pressing enter. So the control moves to the next line and there it starts printing, right? Let me run this. You see, it printed 5 times. Now you understood like how I can go vertical and how I can go horizontal, right? If you have to go horizontal, you should not be pressing ln, and if you want to go vertical, you should press enter there. So again, a second point to remember, everyone, right? Now the last part. I asked you originally to print what? Asterisk, asterisk, this pattern, right? Okay, it went there. I asked you to do something like this: asterisk, 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 and let's say this part here again, asterisk, right? 3. Okay, let me make it simple as of now. Let's say I want to do this. Okay, I want to print this pattern. 5 in the first row, it should print 5. In the second row, it should print 4. In the third row, it should print 3, and in the second, in 2, and then 1, right? Now in this case, right, you want to go in the first row, you want to go the horizontal path also, and you also want to go vertically, right? That is what you want to do. Now how would you go vertically? That you have to somehow, once you are done with the horizontal part, you have to press enter so that control can move to the next line, and you can print how many times you want to print. Then once you're done with it, you need to press enter, then go to the third line, and then print whatever you want. Similarly, continue doing it as many times you want to do, right? And in this way you will see a pattern like this. Okay, let's do this. And to achieve this, you will require 2 for loops. You need a control. See, as Jaswant was mentioning, right? What do you need? You need to first understand like how many rows. See, this is like a matrix, right? This is like a matrix, or you can say a 2-dimensional space. Okay, let us not talk about matrix. Okay, that will add one more complexity. Okay, forget about matrix. Just understand that this is like two-way dimension, like 2-dimensional space in the, or like an excel, right? In the first x in the first row of the excel you have 5 columns. In the second row of the excel you have 4 columns. In the third row you have 3 columns. In the fourth row you have 2 columns, and in the fifth row you have just 1 column, right? A pattern like this. Now how would you achieve this? Let's try to do it. Let me just reduce the size. Okay, let me write on the top. So first of all, I need to first understand how many rows I need to go in. Okay, how many rows I have to print? You can see I have to print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let us first add the first loop. So I will start. I have to. So you have to first think about the rows. How many rows you have to go in? Okay, and for the rows, you will first add the first inner. See, okay. Let me first write here. I equals to 0. So how many rows I need to print? 5. So it will be I less than 5, I plus plus, and this. Right? Now what will happen is if I write something like this again, right? If I do this, okay, right? You can see it will print me 5 different rows, right? Let me run this. I have used ln. It will print me 5 different rows. Where is the button? You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? 5 rows it printed. Now what I missed is that in the row 1 I have to print it 5 times, right? In the first row I have to print asterisk 5 times, right? Which I have not done. Now to achieve this, right, I would have to do what? I would have to use another for loop inside this loop. Okay, let's do this. So for int j equals to 0, and let's think about the logic. Okay, we'll have to think about the logic. So we are starting from 0 and we want to do till the we want to print 5 times, right? So what I should do is I should do this less than 5 minus I. Oh, what I'm doing, sorry. I j equals to 0, j less than 5 minus I, k plus plus. Okay, and in this case I will do what? I will not do this. I will simply do this and the asterisk. Let me just check whether my logic is correct or not, and then I can explain you better. Okay, you can see here. Okay, this is one loop, and I have written another loop. This is another loop here, right? Which is inside the first loop. So in this case, right, what is the terminology? This is the inner loop, and this is the outer loop. Okay, again, be very clear about terminology also. This is an inner for loop, and this is the outer for loop. Okay, let's run this to see whether it works or not. Whether
Akhil,
we
line 11 ln should be removed.
yes, you're right. Sorry, you're right. And if I run this now, let's see what do we get. You see, we got the pattern. Now people may be thinking like, why do we got this? Let's do a dry run. Okay, let's do a dry run. Okay, so what we should do is, okay, we have not learned about debugging. I will also cover a chapter on debugging, how you can debug your code. Okay, but as of now, let's do it the usual way of page and practice. I mean, pencil and paper part, right? So let's do this. In the first iteration, okay, I think it would be better to do it on a board. Let me just try to bring this board up there. Here, and this to be here. Okay. So see, let us try to create those rows. Okay, let us try to create those rows. So what I'll do is I will create first row. Let us say this is my first row. Okay, this is my first row, and in the first row, how many times I wanted asterisk? 5 times. So this is first asterisk. This is second asterisk. This is third asterisk. This is fourth asterisk, and this is fifth asterisk. Right now, if the position of this starts from 0, let's say, right, this is 0 position. Again, okay, in the Excel, right, what do you have? You have columns and rows, right, like this. So you have columns and you have rows, right? What you say here is, you say this is one row, this is second, this is third, this is fourth, this is fifth, and similarly columns 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Try to understand this in this way only, right? But instead of starting from 1, we start from 0, right, in our case. So this is row 0. The next row would be 1. This is 2. This is 3. This is 4. Similarly here, column 0, column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4. Okay. What I mentioned to you is, for the, if you have to go the horizontal way, right, the innermost loop, for loop, right, will take care of that part. So what is the innermost loop? For loop, right? Which variable it is using? J. So this is like j, the value of j, which can be there. And this is for the vertical part, you have to use the outermost for loop, which is this. So this is like an I. Okay, so value of I is here and value of j is here. Okay, this is how it is becoming 2-dimensional. Now, for if you have to put a value at this position, right? So what should be the value of I and j? Value of I and j should be 0 and 0, right? If you have a value of I to be 0 and j to 0, so this value should be filled, right? Similarly here, right, if I continue this, Let me continue this part. Let me draw this part, and this part. See, if I want, see, this is now a complete matrix. If I fill all asterisk here, right, this is like a 5 into 5 matrix, 5 rows, 5 columns. See this. If I want to draw this now, I will do simply like this. You see, I less than, so I will run, I is for outermost loop. I mean, for this part, right? This is for the outer loop, and this takes care of your vertical part, the column part. Because why it is taking care of the column part? Because here I am pressing enter after every iteration. You can see here, right? If you ignore this, what is this loop doing? This loop is simply pressing enter after every loop. Enter, enter, enter. What it is, right? So if it is done with whatever it has to done above, in the end it is pressing an enter. That's it, right? So let's say if you do not, I mean, if you do this, if you leave it as is, it will just press 5 enters. That's it. But let's say before this I added this loop also, right? And here in this loop, right, it does what? It just prints asterisk in the same line. So this will help us to print asterisk in the same line here, right? Okay, now system.out.println is there, and if I run this now, okay, what I was showing you, yes, this way, right? If you run this, what is the output you should see? You would find all the blocks getting filled, because you see everything is filled, because it is running because of the condition which I've mentioned, right? Let's try to run this. Let's try to first print this. If you understand this part now, you will understand the other part also. Okay, so this is asterisk, 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 asterisk. So it printed this. Okay, let us first understand. In the first loop, right, I equals to 0, I less than 5. So I am starting the first loop. So this is the outermost for loop which is running with the first iteration. So where I equals to 0. Okay, where I equals to 0, right? It is running now. With I equals to 0, okay, now the value of I is 0. It checked the condition, it checked, okay, 0 less than 5. Yes, it is true. So it will go inside the loop. So it went inside the loop here, right? It went inside the loop. Now what will happen is it will run this line. Again, it found a for loop, okay. Then it did what? Inner loop started here, inner for loop started here, right? And with the inner for loop, you are starting from j equals to 0. J equals to 0. And then you are doing 0 less than 5 again. Okay. So how many times this for loop will run? Azar, line number 10 to 12 will run how many times?
10 to 12.
No, see the condition inside this, right? J equals to 0, j less than 5. Depending on these two conditions, how many times this for loop will run? 10 to 12, line number.
J is equal to 0.
0, 1, 2, 3, 4,
Five.
right?
Yeah.
5 times, right? It will run
Yes.
5 times. So
Yes.
when your outer loop, right, outer for loop is at I equals to 0, which is its first iteration, right? For the first iteration of the outer for loop, your this inner for loop, right, will be running 5 times. Okay, it will be running 5 times. So for the first iteration of outer for loop, your inner for loop is running 5 times, right? And what you are doing in each loop here, you're simply printing asterisk with every loop ending, right? So here j equals to 0, 0 less than 5. So here we are here on line number 10 right now. Here since it's the first iteration, it will just print this asterisk here, right? So it printed the asterisk. So it printed this asterisk, right? It printed this asterisk. Then what will happen? This will happen, right? J plus plus. So now this will not be used. What will use is this will be used. So j plus plus. Now the value became j became 1, right? So value of j became 1, and now here it is checking again. Is 1 less than 5? Yes, it's still true. And again, you are on the same line here, right? You have not pressed enter. You have not pressed enter.
Yes.
You are still under this block. You have not reached to this line yet. So what you will do is it will again go and print asterisk, because that is what we have asked it to do. Print asterisk. Then it will again go back, and this time it will again increase the value of j. Now the value of j became what? The value of j became, earlier it was 1, it became 2.
2.
So it will check again, 2 less than 5. Yes, 2 is less than 5. again it will see whatever it has to run between this, what it has to do. Again print asterisk, it will print asterisk again, right? In the next
Yes.
iteration, it will again increase the value of j. Now value of j became 3. 3 less than 5, again true, print asterisk again in the same line because we are not printing ln here. Then
Yes.
in the next iteration, it increases the value of j to be 4. It checks 4 less than 5. Again,
Yes.
still true. It prints asterisk again, right? And now in the next iteration, right, what will do? It will again increase the value of j. It became 5.
Yes.
5 less than 5, which is false.
Yes.
What will happen? It will
It'll
come
jump
out
to-
of this inner for loop, right? So
Yes.
so from line number 10, it will just directly move to line number 12. After line 12, what you're doing? You are pressing an enter. You are pressing an enter, right? With this line number 13. This line number 13 is just pressing an enter. So as soon as the control is there, it presses an enter. So now your control now moves to this line. So you reach to the second row, right?
Yes.
Now what will happen is, since now this has already completed, this for loop ran 5 times, right? It has already ran 5 times, but what was the value of I in that case? I equals to 0. So what is happening is, for the first iteration of for loop, so for the first iteration of the for loop, what happened was outer for loop, right? So for the first iteration outer for loop, this for loop, right, the inner for loop has run 5 times. Okay, inner for loop has run 5 times, and it has printed asterisk 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 asterisk, and then once it was done, the control moved here and it pressed enter. Now the control is here, right? Now the second iteration of the outer for loop will run. Why? Because I was equals to 0 when this happened, right? I was equals to 0 when this was happening. Now what you need to do is, in the next iteration of for loop, what will happen? It will again, it will start from here, right? It will do I plus plus. Now what is happening here is I plus plus is happening. Now here I will become 1. It will check the condition. 1 less than 5. Still true. So then from here, the control will again move to this line. This line. Here again, you're doing j equals to 0 to j less than 5. Right? What will happen again? The loop for this loop, right, will start from 0 again. J equals to 0 and 0 less than 5. And again, this will run 5 times. So it will again print asterisk, 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 asterisk. And then once it is done with this loop, it will reach to this line, and it will print and enter, right? Now the control moves to this line. Now at this point of time, okay, here the value of I was 0, here the value of I was 1, here the value of I became 2, right? Now again, it meets the condition, 2 less than 5, right? So it will again go inside this, it will again run the inner for loop. But again, how many times? 5 times. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Then once it is done, print the enter. It prints the enter. Now value of I, again the control moves here. It will increase the value of I. I became 3. It again check 3 less than 5. I equals to 3. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. And then again prints and enter. And now the value of I will become 4. So it will run again 4 less than 5. So it will again go inside the for loop here, run this 5 times, asterisk, 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 and again press and enter. This time now, the value of I after the increment will become 5. Now it will check, is 5 less than 5? This time it returned false. Now what will happen? This condition is here, right? 5 less than 5. This is checking here. So as soon as this became false, so what is the body of this for loop? Here to here, right? Line number 9 to 14. It will just move out of this for loop and the control will move to line number 14. But in the end, what you got is this output. Is it clear, everyone, or no? How things are happening here? You have to play with the two for loops here, right? And make sure you're able to achieve what you wanted to do with the pattern here. The outermost for loop, right? In this case, line number 9 will take care of your rows. Okay, and how it is taking care? Because after your operations, you are making sure that you're pressing enter. Okay, and the innermost loop here, right, the second for loop here is taking care of your columns, how many values you want to print per row. Okay, So it prints that, and you have to make sure that you're not putting ln here. It will print that much of time. And once it is done, it will the control, once it is done, right, it will move out of this, and then it will again print the enter. So that is how it works. Okay. If someone is thinking that this loop will only run once because it completed j equals to 0 to j less than 5 once in the first row, then you are mistaken, right? What happens every time is, every time the control moves to this line, right, like, see, it already got completed 5 times in the first iteration, then it ran this, right, and again it moved the control to this line. For loop thought, okay, I need to run one more time, so it went in. Now when this is about to run, right, it's like a fresh run. It's like a fresh run. So what will happen is, value of j would be initialized to 0 again, and it will start, and it will run this loop. Okay. So this is how it works, and this is how you will be able to achieve this. Now, how will you be able to achieve the pattern which I was mentioning, which was this, which is this, right? Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. No, sorry, not here, not here, not here. Asterisk and asterisk and asterisk. Here you have to understand the pattern. Now this, here your analytical skills will come into the picture, right? You have to now play with the numbers. You have to understand what is the number of rows, I mean number of uh, uh, values you want to have in this row. 5. What is the number of asterisk you have in this row? 4. What is the number of values you need to have? 3. Here 2, then 1. Now try to understand how you can play with this. How can you generate this? You can see here, right? In total, right, it is like, see this, what I was doing here, j 5 minus, sorry, 5 minus I, right? This is what I printed to get this pattern. Let me just run this first, and you will see that it prints my pattern, what I'm trying to print there, which is 5 asterisk in the first row, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? Just a simple minus I. How it is helping here is, see, this time I'll draw here. Now when the for loop is running, for the outer foremost loop, right, I became 0, right? So for I equals to 0, the j loop will work how many times? J will start from 0, 0. It will go, it will run till how many times? 5 minus I. What is the current value of I? 0. So 5 minus I. So this for loop will run how many times? 5 times, right? So this is your, so j equals to 0. So range is j equals to 0, and j should be less than 5 minus I. What is the current value of I? 0. So it becomes 5 minus 0, which is 5. So j should be less than 5, right? So how many times this loop will run? 5 times, right? So you will get asterisk, 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 asterisk 5 times. Now in the second, once this will be done, you will press enter, the control will move here. Now here the value of I became what? 1, because of the outermost loop. Here what you're doing is, again, the value of j starts from 0. And then you're doing what? J less than 5 minus I. What is the value of I? 1. So it becomes 5 minus 1, which is 4. So j should be less than 4. So how many times this will run now? 4 times, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, right? For the fourth, it will return false. So it will not run. So it will run 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. For the next case, it will be I equals to 2. It will be I equals to 2, right? So j equals to 0 again. It starts from 0. J less than 5 minus 2, which is 3. So how many times? 0, 1, 2, right? Less than 3, right? Here it was running 0, 1, 2, 3. It was running 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now see how many times it will print? 3 times. And in the last case, I equals to 3. J equals to 0. J less than 5 minus I, which becomes 5 minus 3, which is 2. So j less than 2. So how many times? Only 2 times, 0 and 1. So it will print asterisk and asterisk. And the last case, I equals to 4, j equals to 0, j less than 5 minus I, which becomes 5 minus 4, which is 1, j less than 1. So how many times? Only 1 time, till 0. So this is the asterisk. Now see the pattern here, right? This is what I wanted to print, and this is what I got. The patterns could be like this, that someone will ask, okay, you need to print a pattern like this, a space in the first place, a space in the end, a space like this. Okay, again, you have to play with the numbers. You have to understand how this pattern can be generated. Just a second. Okay. I hope you understood this part, right? I mean, for this part, right, you can see a pattern like this, but you will have to understand like how this can be achieved. Again, we cannot cover everything here. We cannot cover all the programs here, but I will give you some of the patterns to practice. But again, I cannot give all the patterns, but you are free to implement any pattern which you want to work on, right? And the practice only will make you stronger. Okay, so please, this should be your first. Okay, just a second. Okay, just a second now. So, okay. Mm, hold on here. Where is okay? We leave it. What I was showing here. Board is here, yeah. Right. So again, there could be multiple patterns, but I would encourage everyone to please do such. I mean, do so more patterns there, right, to understand how really the for loops works. Okay. One last thing for today, right, with the while loop. Since we have covered for loop, while loop is very easy. It works on the same principles, just the syntax you have to understand. Okay. Let me just cover the while loop and let's just cover this part. So see, I will just draw a comparison with for and while. So in for loop, what you have an initialization block, right? Int I equals to 0, I less than 10, let's say, I plus plus here, right? And you write your logic here. Similarly, how does the for loop? Okay, this is the initialization block, initialization block. This is your conditional block again, and this is your operational block, right? In case of while loop, it looks like this. You all start from small. Again, for also is all small, while, and then you open up the brackets, you open up the parentheses, you will add your logic here as you were doing earlier. My goodness. Okay, so this part, right? Just a second, and this will keep doing this. How to share this window? Okay, here. Okay, okay. I hope. Okay, you can see the screen, right? Now see this. So this is while loop, right? How it will look? Your logic, right? What you have, what you were writing in the for loop, it will go here. It will go here only, right? And your while loop here, right, only accepts a condition under these brackets. So this condition over here, which you are mentioning, will go inside this. Okay, let's say I less than 10, it will be there. But what about these two things, right? To create your logic, you still require the initialization part, and you also need to increase your value somehow. Where these two pieces will go, this one and this one. So this piece over here, right, I plus plus would go inside your body. Okay, so here in the case of while, it only accepts the conditional block, but this part over here, right, will go after your logic. Whatever logic you have to write, once you're done with it, just mention I plus plus here. Okay, and then this initialization block, right, where you should place it, you should place on the top here before the while loop. Okay, and now you can see whatever you were able to achieve through for loop, you would be able to achieve through while loop also. So where did the conditional block went? The middle part get inside this brackets here, I less than 10. This I plus plus part, right, the incremental operation goes inside your body. Okay, after this, and your this initialization block has to be outside the while loop. Okay, and this is how it works. Let us just see the how it can be achieved. Okay. Okay, see here, right? So what I'll do is I'll try to achieve the same part which you are achieving for the while loop there, right? Which is to print my name 10 times. How we can do it? Let me just close this and add the public void while demo. All right. So how you write it? While let's see that thing, right? I want to print my name 10 times. So what I'll do is I less than 10 here, and I will print here as out Akhil, right? Now this is what I printed, and this is okay here, right? So you will do this, but here you have to understand what you're doing, right? What you're missing. You are not initialize the value I. That's why it is complaining. Where will you initialize? Outside the while loop, before the while loop. So you will say int I equals to 0. Here you're doing I less than 10, and the operational block will go inside the I with the while block, inside the while block, right? Like this. Now see, we got all three components. So this is the initialization block, this is the conditional block, and this is the incremental block. And how does it work? See here. First of all, someone invokes this method, let's say, right? So first of all, this line will be running. So I will get set to 0. So I will be set to 0. Again, try to understand this, right? In the first iteration, in the for loop, what was happening? The initialization was happening first. So here also, you're achieving the same thing by doing this, right? You got I int I equals to 0. Now value of I is 0 now. The control moves to next line, line number 43. It is checking the condition now in the first iteration. Is 0 less than 10? Same as for loop, right? So it is checking 0 less than 10. True. So it will go inside the while loop and print this. Now it is done with the logic. And once it is done with the logic, it is about to start the second iteration. It will increase the value. So now the value of I became what? 1. Right? And since after this, again, the nature of while loop is if you reach here, the while loop will be repeated. But this time value of I became what? 1. Right? Value of I became 1. Now, after becoming 1, right, what will happen is it will again check the condition, and again it is true, it will again run, right? Similarly, how the for loop was working from the second iteration onwards in for loop, right? Initialization block was not running. Similarly here, right, you are not reaching to the line number 42 anymore. You are moving from 43 to 46 only. You will remain here only, right? So in the first iteration, what is happening? So in the first iteration, this part runs, right? And this part runs, right? In the second iteration, I mean in the end of the first iteration, then it runs, right? This is in the end, which is like the beginning of the second iteration. So this is beginning of second iteration. This part will run, and from the second iteration onwards, after the iteration part, I mean after the incremental part, the condition will be checked again, and you can see this is not getting executed again. Similarly, how the for loop was working, right? And if you would see the output here, you will find Akhil getting printed 10 times. Let me run this. And how to run it? Let me make it static. And I will do login demo dot while demo. Let me run this. Oh, I have not stopped this. Okay, let me run it again. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it is printing Akhil 10 times. So the same how I was able to achieve it with using the for loop, I'm able to use it through the while loop. Okay, everyone. And again with the while loop, right? The part is if you want to make it infinite, let's say, how do you make it infinite? You can make it infinite. See how the while loop works. It while loop works on the basis of this condition, and until you keep getting true, true, true every time, right? It will not care. It will just keep on repeating, keep on repeating. Again, that's a condition which has to return a true value, a boolean value. Let me pass true here, and you will see it will keep printing the Akhil, 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 Akhil again and again. See this. See, it just keeps on going, keeps on going, keeps on going. It's an infinite loop. So we understood like how we can achieve the infinite loop in the while loop and in the for loop, right? And that is what we wanted to learn, right? How to create an infinite loop. So this is see again, everything, right? Everything will start making sense if you understand the basic concepts around things and at least remember the most important rules around them, right? You have to understand the whatever you're providing here, ultimately that gets resulted into a Boolean value, right? And while loop works on that Boolean value only. If you keep providing true there, right? Until it is getting true, it will keep on repeating the part. That is how it works. Okay, I think we are done for today. This is the entire flow. Okay,
Yeah, I understand.
now you know Git, right?
Yes, yes.
GitHub, great. Okay,
Yeah.
anything else?
No. That's what I wanted to
Okay,
know.
okay, great.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Sorry I took your time.
No worries, no worries. Okay, thank you. I think we are good for today. Let's meet
Yeah,
tomorrow.
thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
good
sure.
night. Bye. Bye, Kusuma. Bye.
Yeah, bye bye. Good night.
Bye. Good night.